Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are decoding the hidden psychology behind why we hold on to everyday items. If you've ever stared down a cluttered drawer and just wondered, why can I toss this stuff out? Well, you're absolutely in the right place. We're going to unpack exactly why your mind works this way.
Seriously, I want you to think about a highly specific moment for a second. Have you ever found yourself staring at just a totally useless physical item? Maybe it's a crumpled receipt from some mediocre dinner 3 years ago, or I don't know, a worn out shirt that literally hasn't fit since college. And suddenly you feel this crushing sense of guilt at the mere thought of throwing it in the trash. It's like discarding that cheap piece of paper means you're throwing away the memory itself, right? Your brain just completely refuses to let it go.
Okay, let's dive into this because society has a very, very distinct way of labeling this kind of behavior. People might joke around and call you a hoarder or say you're just being messy, holding on to random stuff, but actually, psychology reveals a completely different story. Attaching deep emotions to everyday objects, it isn't about being cluttered at all. It actually points directly to a highly sensitive brain that uses physical items to process really profound emotional connections. So no, you aren't just being messy, you actually have this beautifully rich inner world.
Which brings us to section 1, the guilt of letting go.
So that intense wave of guilt you feel hovering over the trash can, we really need to completely reframe it. That guilt is not a character flaw, not at all. It is actually the very first clue to understanding your unique cognitive wiring. In fact, this wave of guilt has a clinical name. It's called object attachment. That's a psychological concept where a highly empathetic brain projects past emotions and profound human connections onto physical items. And giving this deeply personal habit a clinical name is, well, I think it's incredibly validating, right? It means your reaction is a known, documented psychological reality. You're definitely not alone in this. Your brain is performing a highly specific function when you look at that object.
Moving on to section 2, anchoring emotion to objects.
To really grasp what's happening, we have to look at how your brain actually stores memories, because honestly, it's operating entirely differently from how a neurotypical brain works. For most folks, a memory is just a passing thought that kind of fades over time. But if you have a highly sensitive mind, here's how you store a moment, and this brilliantly illustrates the process. First, you experience a moment of intense emotional safety or joy. Second, because gifted minds feel happiness and sadness so much stronger than the average person, your brain attaches that exact, vivid feeling to a physical object from that moment. And third, you use that object as a literal physical bridge back to the past. You don't just remember the day. Your brain anchors the feeling in reality. Just think about holding that old movie ticket. You feel the crisp paper, maybe you notice the faded ink. To someone else, sure, it belongs in the recycling bin. But to your highly sensitive brain, it is definitely not just paper. That tactile feeling, holding the actual item in your hand, is your brain using a physical anchor to lock onto reality. It is a tangible bridge that transports you right back to an emotionally safe memory. It's like an anchor in the physical world for an otherwise entirely invisible emotion.
Let's hit section 3, high emotional attunements.
Now that we know how you anchor these memories, we really need to transition into exploring the incredible emotional depth that defines the kind of person who holds on to sentimental objects. People who do this generally possess what psychologists call high emotional attunement. Basically, that's the ability to deeply sense and absorb the emotions of the people and the environment around you. And because you possess this incredibly rich, vivid emotional trait, when you look at, say, an old childhood toy, your empathetic brain doesn't just remember playing with it. It literally projects those past emotions right back into the present moment. You feel the whole thing all over again.
And this is exactly why it is so impossibly hard to let go. Because of your intense emotional attunement, your brain genuinely feels that discarding the object means, subconsciously, discarding the love, the person, and the connection tied to it. I really want that to sink in for a second, because it validates the immense burden of empathy you carry. You aren't just throwing away an old shirt. To your brain, you are throwing away the person who gave it to you.
All right, section 4, proof of good times.
We also have to look at how deep thinkers and highly intelligent minds process time, change, and, let's face it, the general chaos of the present world. Deep thinkers are constantly analyzing, reflecting, and just trying to make sense of things. You probably revisit the past to try and understand it better because your mind holds on to all those little details. So, objects serve as a tangible, permanent way to hold on to a reality that has already passed. When your current life feels exhausting or unpredictable or chaotic, you use these items as undeniable physical proof of the people who cared about you and proof of the good times you've actually had.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely reframes the whole idea of being messy. As you can see, sensitive minds utilize physical items for a few key reasons: preserving past joy, proving good times actually existed, and comforting the nervous system on demand. This isn't a flaw, it is a highly evolved coping mechanism. Your mind is essentially preserving past joy and safety within a physical space so you can easily access it whenever your nervous system needs a bit of comfort. It's literally like having a localized physical database of happiness. And this really proves you don't just want a cluttered space where someone else might look at an item and see, a torn, useless piece of fabric. Your brain sees a profound story of connection. It's a stark contrast. You just see deep meaning where others see trash.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is captured beautifully in this quote from our source material. You keep them because you think in complex layers rather than straight lines. You allow your mind to see the deep meaning behind things that other people would just completely ignore. You are not living in the past, and you are certainly not a hoarder. You are honoring memories and deeply valuing human connection with your highly sentimental, wonderfully layered mind.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question to reflect on. If this has been a mirror into your own incredible emotional depth and validated what you've probably always felt, ask yourself, how will you stop judging your quirks and finally turn your beautifully unique wiring into your greatest strength? Seriously, the next time you find yourself carefully packing away an old letter or ticket stub, do not let anyone make you feel bad about it. Embrace the profound depth of your sentimental mind. Thank you so much for learning with us today.